I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. I know all eyes were on the New York Attorney General state court trial where Donald Trump was a civil defendant, where Trump left after 2.5 days and got a gag order imposed on him after attacking the judge's law clerk. But there's also proceedings taking place in another court in New York, in the federal court in the Southern District of New York, before Judge Lewis Kaplan, where Donald Trump is also getting devastating news in the state court with New York Attorney General Letitia James, and devastating news in federal court in the next E. Jean Carroll defamation case set for trial in just a few months. It starts the first week of January. So now the federal judge, Lewis Kaplan, who presided over the first E. Jean Carroll case, where she was awarded $5 million by the jury after they found Donald Trump committed sexual abuse and Donald Trump engaged in defamatory statements. This is the next E. Jean Carroll case, and Judge Kaplan, the federal judge presiding over the matter, is now ruling on the various pretrial motions. Judge Kaplan previously granted summary judgment in favor of E. Jean Carroll in connection with the liability. And basically, Judge Kaplan previously ruled, I covered it here on the MeidasTouch Network, that based on the jury ruling in the other E. Jean Carroll trial, where it related to defamatory statements made by Donald Trump in 2022, since the statements were basically the same, the underlying conduct is the same, that the judgment that had already been entered, the decision reached by the jury, is binding on the other defamation case. So really, we're just talking about damages right now. And here, in the most recent devastating ruling that just was handed down by Judge Lewis Kaplan, it also just goes to show you how incompetent Donald Trump's lawyers are as well, because in this most recent order, Judge Kaplan excludes the a rebuttal expert that Donald Trump's lawyers wanted to introduce, because the rebuttal expert did not know how to prepare an expert report. You know, in federal court, things are very detailed. So when you submit an expert report, you have to demonstrate that there is a foundation for a purported expert's opinions. The expert has to set forth their sources. The expert has to demonstrate that they have an expertise. You can't just have random people claim to be experts, not cite any sources, and just represent that they're going to provide expert testimony. And that's precisely what Donald Trump was trying to do here, which, dude, just hire an expert. Submit a expert report the right way. Like it happens every single day in courts across the country. Lawyers hire experts. I promise you'd be able to find someone who would want to take the fee to submit a report in the appropriate format, but Trump was incapable of doing that. It is the pattern that we see over and over again. He doesn't file the right documents. He doesn't introduce the right evidence. He doesn't follow the deadlines. And then when he misses a deadline, or when he isn't able to, he doesn't show up or whatever it is, then he whines and goes, oh, it's so unfair. Everyone's out to get me. No, just follow the rules. I mean, number one, don't engage in the underlying conduct, whether it's criminal, whether it's civil fraud, whether it's defamation, whether it's criminal conduct. Don't engage in that conduct, okay, number one. But then number two, when there's a court case, court cases have rules, they have deadlines, they have things. You gotta follow them. And Trump did not do that here. And federal judges and state court judges will smack you down when you don't follow the rules. So here is Judge Lewis Kaplan's order. It's devastating for Donald Trump. He doesn't have an expert in the trial. So you're just going to have E. Jean Carroll's expert. Trump doesn't have one now to rebut this expert on the damages to E. Jean Carroll's reputation. Take a look at this order by Judge Kaplan. Plaintiff E. Jean Carroll moves in limine, means it's a pretrial motion, ruling on 6 requests. 5 of the requests pertain to issues of liability, whether defendant Donald Trump engaged in the defamatory statements made in 2019. But because of this court's September 6, 2023 ruling, determining that trial will only be about issues of damages, liabilities already established, granting E. Jean Carroll partial summary judgment, 5 of the requests by E. Jean Carroll are moot. So there's really one request that's before the court, and E. Jean Carroll wants to preclude the testimony of Donald Trump's proposed expert, Robert J. Fisher, and Carroll intends to call as an expert witness Professor Ashley Humphreys, Ph.D. Professor Humphreys is Miss Carroll's expert. Humphreys intends to testify, Dr. Humphreys intends to testify on the, quote, dissemination of Trump's defamatory statements, their impact, if any, the cost, if any, to counteract the damage to Miss Carroll's reputation through a reputation repair campaign. Trump seeks to call Robert Fisher as an expert, purportedly to rebut Dr. Humphrey's conclusion. Carroll wants to exclude Trump's expert. The court goes on to say, the court previously confronted the admissibility of Fisher's proposed rebuttal expert testimony in the other E. Jean Carroll case. In other words, I've already rejected this, Donald Trump. You tried running the same scam on me that I called out back then. I'm calling it out again right now. And the court back in the other trial determined that Fisher's testimony was not reliable. There's no reliable basis for Fisher's conclusions in his report that was submitted. And the court goes on to say, here's what I said in the other trial. Mr. Fisher does not explain how his experience informs his criticism of Dr. Humphrey's proposal for reputation repair. In other words, your expert, Trump, doesn't even explain how he's experienced to criticize E. Jean Carroll's expert. Nor does your expert, Trump, rely on any specific facts, data, or evidence. You don't rely on facts, data, or evidence, neither of those 3. Indeed, the entire analysis of your expert, or his entire analysis of your expert of Dr. Humphrey's proposal, contains no citation at all. It just talks about E. Jean Carroll's expert. He's not citing any other sources. Although one could hypothesize that his opinions were informed by his experience in the communications and reputation management field, how exactly that experience leads to those opinions remains unknown and would be nothing more than speculation. In other words, Trump, your expert, doesn't even say who he is. So we could hypothesize that your expert maybe works in the communications field, but even if we made that hypothesis, your expert who didn't do that then doesn't connect that to these opinions. Pretty basic things to do, data, evidence, facts. And then it goes on to say that Trump's expert's proposal is basically page after page of just nonsense and is not any analysis of anything. And it goes on to say that in this case, like the other case, your expert Trump's report suffers the very same inadequacies. The first 6.5 pages of his 12-page report contains a mixture of legal opinions as well as arguments and a sundry of other things, none of which are the proper subject of expert testimony. So no, Donald Trump, I'm not allowing this expert to testify. And so for the exact same reasons I previously gave in the other trial, rather than fixing it, you submitted the same crap, and I'm rejecting it for the same reasons. This is not valid expert testimony at all. Period. Full stop. Rejecting Donald Trump's expert. But you see the incompetence there? And by the way, one of the things that we just posted on the MeidasTouch Twitter account, X account or whatever, but I want to show it here to you as well, is if you just look to This is Donald Trump's stipulation withdrawing the special proceeding he filed against the New York State Court judge. This is the notice of voluntary dismissal Donald Trump filed in the Michael Cohen action where he sued Cohen. This is the voluntary dismissal that Donald Trump filed when he sued New York Attorney General Letitia James once. Here is another dismissal in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals where Donald Trump dismissed his lawsuit against New York Attorney General Letitia James. Dismiss, 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 dismiss. Donald Trump just brings random things, vexatious, random loser things, and just dismisses them because he's a loser. And he doesn't follow the rules because he knows he's guilty. He knows he's liable. So he does this, then he just whines, pity me, they're all after me, they're all after me. Another devastating ruling that Donald Trump deserves accountability season is here. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers. Thanks to your support. Hit subscribe. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch as well. Have an excellent day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.